In many of the previous videos, we have mostly focused on single projects. We haven't really taken into account that much the company that is implementing the project. However, companies are different in terms of the role of the project business. In other words, companies have to think which tasks should be organized as projects and which in some other ways. Due to the previous point, companies are internally organized in different ways. In this video, we will discuss the role of the company's organizational structure from the perspective of project business. We will focus on three typical organizational structures: functional, process-based, and matrix organizations. This first figure illustrates a functional organization. Functional organizations are traditional hierarchies in which the company is divided into functions such as production, marketing, planning, or financial management. There can be projects in functional organizations, but they are most typically internal to the functions. The main reason for this is that the functions have decision-making power to only their own resources. If a project requires resources or knowledge from several functions, coordination takes place at higher organizational levels. In company-wide projects, this coordination is typically handled by the management of the company or management of the functions. In functional organizations, there are typically no project managers. Even if there are project managers, their power is very low in comparison to the managers of the functional organization. In any case, the role of the project managers is fairly limited. This figure summarizes some characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses of a functional organization from the perspective of project business. From a project business perspective, the opposite to a functional organization is a project-based or a projectized organization. This organizational structure is primarily built around projects. Projects can include sub-projects, different roles, and groups. All of the sub-projects and groups report directly to project managers. In project-based organizations, project managers are very independent. Projects have their own resources, and the project personnel report only to the project managers. Project manager is like the CEO of a project. Projects are responsible for their costs and results, and there is no need for resource negotiations, for example. In a pure project-based organization, business activities are organized as projects. However, there can be also departments or functions which support the work that takes place in projects. This figure summarizes some characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses of a project-based organization from the perspective of project business. The third organizational structure we will focus on is a matrix organization. Matrix organization is an organizational structure that is in many ways between a functional and a project-based organization. There are several different matrix organizations depending on whether they are closer to a functional or to a project-based organization. These different matrix organizations are typically called weak, balanced, and strong matrix organizations. This figure illustrates a balanced matrix organization. Typical to all types of matrix organization are the negotiations between project managers and the managers of the functional organization. The focus of these negotiations is especially on project resources and project results. Important concepts related to those negotiations include resource pools and project pools. Resource pools refer to the functions of the functional organization that provide resources for the projects. Project pool, on the other hand, refers to projects that require resources from the functional organization. In matrix organizations, personnel can both work in multiple projects and have roles in the functional organization. The main differences between the different matrix organizations are related to the division of power between the managers of the functional organization and the project managers. This figure summarizes some characteristics, strengths and weaknesses of a matrix organization from the perspective of project business. In this video, we have discussed the role of organizational structures for project business. We have focused on three typical organizational structures: functional, project-based, and matrix organizations. Regarding those three typical organizational structures, we have discussed their main characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses from the perspective of project business. Although all organizational structures have their strengths and weaknesses, it is important to notice that there is no such thing as the best organizational structure. Similarly, project business can take place in any of the organizational structures discussed today. In the last figure, we will compare and summarize different organizational structures once more.